There is now advocacy to assess the quality of drivers engaged by private bus transport services in the country following the recent fatal accident involving such vehicles. At least 34 people were killed when two commercial buses crashed at Dompoase on the Cape Coast Takoradi Highway Tuesday. The casualties included an 8-month-old baby whose parents were also killed. But following the accident, there appears to be fresh conversation on the way forward to avert the possible deaths of more people on Ghana's roads. First, here is a report by Central Regional Correspondent Richard Kojonyako on the extent of loss in the Dompoase accident.
Many relatives of the dead in the accident continue to pour in at the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital. The situation could be likened to one going to check his or her exam results to know whether he or she has failed or has passed. This woman here has been praying that the checks they are doing at the hospital morgue should not include his brother, their lastborn. But unfortunately, her fears were confirmed. The brother was gone. Many continue to trickle in to embark on the same exercise. One of such persons was Esikadu Katan, Member of Parliament and Minister for Railway Development, Joe Gate. He lost his constituency financial secretary.
One of the constituency officers, Makonde Haja, very good woman. She lives in Kojokro. We went, we noticed how hardworking she was in a party in Kojokro. Then she became a polling station chairperson. And then we elevated her to the position of financial secretary. She was a selfless person. She used not just her time, but also her money. And she did, it wasn't only politics. She was a stalwart in the society. She did a lot for people. From the reports I hear yesterday, the crowds of people went to her house, the reaction. It shows that she was doing things for people that even others didn't know. The next thing I heard was that this accident happened. First, I heard she survived. Then they told me that she had passed away. She was a good person. And so today, cabinet is being held today. Usually cabinet is held on Thursday, but today the president brought it forward for certain reasons. And you cannot, as it were, excuse yourself on cabinet. I mean, the president takes it very serious. We take it very serious because by the constitution, it's our duty to assist the president. Every 2 weeks we meet in order to think about Ghana, the country that the people of Ghana has given to us in trust for them, to serve them. But when I told the president yesterday about what has happened, he immediately said to me that you must go.
Inshiraba Ansah and her brother Adom Ansah were also traveling with their father, John Ansah, their mother, whose name we only know as Martha, and their younger sibling from the eastern region to Takoradi. These two have lost their dad, their mom, and their 8-month-old sibling in this accident. 10-year-old Inshiraba had an injury on the hip and the upper part of the arm, while 6-year-old Adom Ansah sustained injuries on the head. His head has been sutured now, but their walls have almost crashed. They've been asking for their parents and their sibling. Central Regional Minister Kwame Nadankan and the Central Regional Police Commander with the entourage were there to visit. Other survivors shared their stories. CEO of the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital, Dr. Eric Kofinjedu, has been calling for calm among family members. He says the hospital has to exhaust all processes before the bodies could be released to them.
Yeah, from yesterday to today, we have been trying to manage the mass casualty that occurred on the Takoradi Cape Coast stretch. And you know, around between 12 and 1 o'clock, we had a call from an observer that there was an accident, and we quickly mobilized our resources to contain the situation. So together, we had a total of about 34 bodies in our mortuary that we initiated administrative processes and legal processes to get the bodies identified. And then, they're all coroner's inquest. And the coroner will have to give us the necessary directives as to how to proceed. So from yesterday to today, we have been managing mass casualty. The 25 that are remaining are fine. The ones in the body are in the process of body identification and coroner inquest documentation to go through. And then as and when we get the clearance from the coroner, the bodies will be released to the deceased family.
Driver of the red bus, who earlier accounts suggested he was overtaken, has been speaking. He gives a different account and discounts earlier claims. It is not true that I was overtaking another car. I was even on the second gear, and that cannot be a speeding gear. What happened was that there was an articulated truck that has stopped in the middle of the road. I tried veering off, and in the process, the white bus rammed into ours. It wasn't easy. It wasn't that I was overtaking any vehicle. I had to escape through the roof of the car to safety. I got injured on my chest, my arm, and my leg and couldn't move. Back here at the accident scene, the regional police commander and the regional minister are here to actually learn what really transpired and other analysis as part of their investigative processes.
So we are back at the accident scene, the spot where exactly the accident happened. On my right, you see a long stretch of the road. On my left, you see a very sharp curve, and that is where we are told that the overtaking was done, the unsuccessful overtaking was done. But there are two narratives now. Apart from the unsuccessful overtaking, the driver who survived, the driver that was doing the overtaking, has been relating to the police that another articulated truck ran over them. But the regional police command indicated, or it's indicating that they are going to keep that in the investigation as well. So look at the wreckage that is left. The vehicles or the metals that we sit in that we call vehicles, look at the end, how it looks like now. It's reduced to rubble. Yesterday, these things were flattened, nothing. So you see the tires, how the tires have been reduced to. Look at what covers us when we sit in the car. Everything has been reduced to rubble. It's a very, very sorry sight, a gory incident that really happened here. The regional police commander, COP Paul Awini, has been addressing the media, indicating, narrating what happened to the regional minister. The regional minister is calling for stiffer punishment for drivers that drive recklessly on our road. My name is Richard Kwejonyako for JoyNews.
Richard filed that report. Now, psychologists employed by the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital to work on the survivors of the Dompoase accident have begun their work. Their immediate assignment is to work on the two siblings who lost their father, mother, and their 8-month-old brother. Correspondent Richard Kwejonyako has been following this for us. He joins us via Skype to tell us more. Hello, Richard.
Hi, Gibson.
Tell us about what's going on now.
Okay, so the psychologists began their work this morning, just as you indicated. They started work with Inshwaba and then Adom, and they have the news has still not been broken to them. They do not know where the whereabouts of their parents yet, because the situation they find themselves, it will be very difficult, and they do not know how these two children would take it should they break the news to them just like that. And so that is why the services of these psychologists have been employed to work on them. So they are gradually doing that. What the hospital authorities have told them is that their parents also sustained some injuries, and they are in a different ward, and so they are also working on them. And pretty shortly they will see them, but they've been crying incessantly. So you can imagine how the situation has been for these two people. It is not only these two people that the psychologists are working on them. There is also a mother who lost two children as well. She has not been able to see these two children at the mortuary because she herself is in a difficult situation. She got some critical injuries, and doctors are still working on her. She's also been, crying, looking for the children as well. There are other people that are also in similar conditions. They tell different tales, different stories, how they got on board the vehicles, what happened. Some of them definitely were asleep because it was night, and so they didn't even see what was happening. But there are equally good number of people that were also wide awake who can tell you vividly what was happening, which driver was doing what, and all of that. The police who came there yesterday, the regional police commander and regional minister, have taken all of these tales or narratives into consideration. They've also spoken with the driver. A short while ago, we listened to the driver who also gave a different account of what really transpired. And they said that an articulated truck rammed or ran on them. When the accident had already occurred, an articulated truck also ran on them. So they are putting one and two together to see really the correct narrative, so they would know which place to lay the blame to.
Richard, talking about this latest narrative by the driver, one of the drivers involved in this accident, what has the police said about this part of the story that we are now hearing?
Well, so it is a fresh story that is emerging because people bought into the first narrative, and that narrative was given by another survivor in the car. He was in the white bus that was traveling from Takoradi to Accra. So that was a preliminary thing people bought into, that this the driver in the red car was doing or having an illegal overtaking there. But this current or the latest twist to the issue given by this one has got the police, talking, and so they say that they are going to subject these two narratives to some critical analysis. Yesterday, we were there when they started interviewing some of the victims, some of the survivors at the hospital, what really transpired, whether indeed the accounts given by these two survivors were accurate and other things. So they are hoping to step up the investigation to find out exactly what really might have caused the accident.
Richard, there seemed to be a little bit of a background sound in there, but before I let you go, these little children who are involved in this, you said the psychologists are talking to them. Have you been able to engage the psychologists on what they gather from these, the assessment of these kids?
Well, so we are here to meet the psychologists. We are still in the hospital. We are here to meet them. They've had a very busy day because they've been given specific tasks to do. So they hope to brief me or the media here by the close of day today to see the amount of work they've been able to do, and going forward, what is to happen, because now we know a relative of Adom and Inshiraba has suffered, and there was also a family friend who was also here, who is also a health worker at the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital. All of them are putting one and two together. They are also, being in all of these things. They are in a state of affairs as to what really will happen to these two. Now, these two are orphans now. Their parents gone. Their smaller or their sibling is also gone. So they are looking at other alternatives, other things that will happen to them before they leave the hospital finally.
Richard, thank you very much for that update. Richard Kojonyako there joining us from Cape Coast with that update on that rather unfortunate story. At least they're getting some psychological attention. Hopefully that works. But it certainly won't fill the space or the gap, the vacuum that has been left by the absence of their parent. Well, as public anger grows over the situation, many of you have been sharing your comments with us on how we can put an end to this menace. We'll read those messages out to you shortly. You can send us messages on our WhatsApp line, which will drop right there on the television for you to send your message to us. But under the current law, any driver with the requisite license can drive a commercial bus. Now, that regulation also requires buses to install speed limiters. However, it turns out many of the buses used by private transport companies do not have them. This accident has become a sad national reality. At least 2,000 people are killed each year in Ghana. And these are people's mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, and children, adding to the 2020 statistics, which has begun. Joining me in studio now is Abbas Ibrahim Moro. He's the Industrial Relations Officer for the Greater Accra GPRTU. We'll have a conversation with him, but like I said, drop us a message on our WhatsApp platform. We're putting the WhatsApp number there on the page, on the TV. Do send us a message. Mr. Moro, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you, madam.
Now, first of all, let me just find out from you if these drivers involved in the accident are members of the GPRTU.
Well, currently,
They are?
I would say yes, because you know every newspaper, if you are sending a child, you say, go and buy me graphic. Although we have different newspapers, it's been accepted that undisputedly, GPRTU, we are the leading private transport organization. Everybody, every driver, they associate them to GPRTU.
Okay.
Now that there is a problem, let's accept that responsibility.
Okay, but how do you know that people are members of the GPRTU? Is it because once you're a driver, you are an
not
automatic
that is
member?
the public perception. I'm just saying,
Okay.
we know they are members from the unions they operate from.
Okay.
I know the white bus, which was coming from Takoradi, belongs to one of our unions at the Kandishi Takoradi station. That's why I say, let's accept those responsibilities. It's very sad. This is a national issue. We should all fight to make sure it should be a thing of the past.
Well, we've been fighting for, over stories like this. At the same spot, 42 people have died, and I'm sure that the same conversation went on 10 years ago. But I just wanted to, I was asking because I wanted to find out what sort of assessment regime you have within the GPRTU to check your members, to check the drivers, to make sure that this driver is in good standing, this driver qualifies to drive these people, this driver is in the right mental state to do the driving. Do you have anything like that?
We have, but let me set the record straight.
Please.
So many accidents have happened which are not, or who are not our members. But like I said, it's been associated with us that they are GPRTU members. But for now, let's move forward. First, we have to send our condolences to the bereaved family. We wish the injured speedy recovery. We have been organized for the past 3 years, 2 seminars in a year for our drivers. Secondly, we know most of these accidents, 80% are human error. What we were told, if that is the issue, meaning the driver was wrongfully overtaken, if that, although the police are investigating.
So that is one narrative.
Yes.
There's another narrative that says that he said there was a vehicle, a truck parked in front of him, and he was trying to veer off to avoid it, and then he ended up colliding with the other one. The third narrative that we're getting today is that after the accident, the reason why a lot of people died, that after the accident, whilst they were trying to rescue them, another vehicle ran over them. So there are 3 different narratives that we're dealing with here.
But the accident itself, what we were told, because you know we are leaders of a very large members. So if there is an issue, we have to help to address it properly. What has happened could be me, could be you.
Okay.
If it is true that the driver was overtaken, meaning he was doing that wrongfully.
I'll come to the overtaking bit because I want us to focus a little bit more on that one. So I find out if there is any special part of your training that tackles this.
Yes, like I said, for the
but
past,
yeah, tell us about the training that you've been
for the past 3 years,
organizing.
we've been organizing 2 seminars in a year on road safety, driving, defensive driving, etc., etc. Secondly, every driver, you should consider yourself as a priest who is trying to change human lives. Because if you are driving, all these people in your vehicle, their lives depend on you. As at the time they are in your vehicle. So every driver should try and put some value to our profession. So you must do the right thing at the right time.
How does this training that you organize really equip the drivers with the necessary skills they need to drive safely on the road? And do you know how many people you actually reach with this training?
Yes. Yes. Normally, what we do is we write to the branches that from this time to this time, maybe 2 days or 3 days, we are organizing a road safety. Every union should bring its members. Normally, all the members cannot attend at the same time, but after the training, we advise them to organize a general meeting for them also to impart whatever they've learned at that seminar to the other members. So we strongly believe whatever we teaches them or whatever they learn at the seminar goes down well to the drivers.
Okay, I'll come back to this part of the conversation, but let's get on the line now. I do have the Director of Planning and Programs at the National Road Safety Authority, David Osafo Adonting. Ms. Adonting, thanks for your time this afternoon.
Good afternoon, my dear. Thank you.
I'm just engaging the GPRTU, and I'm asking them. They're telling me that there is a training regime of sorts. And they do that every year. You do it once every year, right?
Twice.
Twice every year. I think that you said it once on this show that the National Road Safety Authority is organizing some training as well. Are these trainings coordinated, or are these, isolated trainings?
Okay. In the first place, let me say good afternoon to our cherished viewers and others also listening. So. And thank you for the opportunity. And I say appreciate to all of you, including my good friend from GPRT. Indeed, we have recognized and we know that training is very crucial in the job we do. So it is by mandate, if I look at the road traffic regulation, transport operators like the GPRTs and the Dompoase and so on have that responsibility of training their own drivers. It's clearly specified in the law. That nonetheless, we as the National Road Safety Authority now and the DVLA have also some responsibility in trying to organize training for these drivers in the transport operators service provision group. We are aware.
They're obviously. Please go ahead.
Yes, the GPRTU, I think a couple of years ago, initiated a certain training program sponsored by Corvette or so. And we all joined them to start that training because indeed, it was something that was going to inure to the benefit of public safety on our roads. And so they trained, if you can correct me, about 50,000 of their drivers. And that
50,000 of the drivers?
Yes, that was the plan. And that was a huge achievement as far as their industry is concerned. Now, we have realized that was GPRT, but what of the other numerous transport operators, unions and organizations, whom we have not seen over the years organizing any training program on their own? And so we came up with a plan just last year when the president of this country supported National Road Safety Authority with a certain amount of money to supplement our budget. And we put 13,000 of this commercial vehicle drivers group into classrooms from November, December, and it's still ongoing. Now, what we are doing currently is that we want to harmonize all these training programs so that it becomes a standard one from this year, and it becomes mandatory, because the law provides that every commercial vehicle driver must go through a training program or refresher training program approved by the National Road Safety Authority in consultation with the DVLA. Now, we are looking at a structure where it will be unique, it will be standard. Whether it's GPR2, it's Pro Tour, it's cooperative, all the transport operators will come together and move along with us. Where we structure it, it's a national program. And we will make them all go through. When you go to DVLA to renew your license or upgrade your license, your driver's license, it will be a requirement, a kind of an evidence to prove that you have gone through that training before your driver's license is renewed. But we haven't gotten to that point yet. At the moment, there are bits and pieces of trainings here and there. But I'm sure that this year, when all of us, whom we call our stakeholder groups, have decided, sat together and agreed on the training structure, I'm sure all these trainings will be harmonized and it becomes a national standard for us to implement.
You talk about this. You talk about these trainings that are not necessarily coordinated. Mr. Moro, you seem to want to make a contribution to this.
Yes. Currently, I must say that it's not fully coordinated. We are trying to establish one that will be a standard. Like saying, we started in November, December. We have developed the content. We have developed the certificate. We have developed the whole structure, moving from that commercial group, from the taxis to the buses and so on. It's a whole structure. And I'm saying that we are yet to have the stakeholder consultation group so that we can all agree on the content. We can agree on the structure.
Is this not too late in the day, Mr. Dontain? Because we've been talking about accident over the years. And if there has to be any stakeholder consultation for this standardization to happen, wouldn't you say it's too late? I mean, it's never too late probably, but isn't it a bit coming a bit late?
I would say that the law actually was in 2012 in our road traffic regulation, 2012, and it's taking us all this while. It has not been implemented. So I must say that indeed, yes, it's late, but it is better for us to do it now than to keep it the way it is. That also doesn't mean that training is not being done. We are doing training at a novice level. What we are talking about is refresher or retraining. Novice driving is ongoing by the Ghana National Association of Driving Schools. It is required at DVLA by law that any person who wants to acquire driving license should go to a driving school. That is being done. What we have not done is when somebody is moving from a certain category, let's say the beginner, category B, now you want to move to category C, which is commercial, it is required that you go through a certain upgrading training before you move into that grade. That is not being done. And I must be honest, it's not being done. And it's a big gap. Now we have decided that we sit together and let it happen, because it has become necessary that our commercial vehicle drivers will need that training. We have all seen what is being done now. And after doing the pilot in November and December, as we were entering Christmas, as part of our Christmas activities, we have seen how beneficial this training can be. That is why we are advocating for that this year and onwards. It is something that must happen by all means.
At what point are you, as far as discussions, if you like, with the DVLA is on this matter?
Now, after developing the content and testing it in the pilot exercise in November, December last year, and then a few of them out of the 13,000 sample drivers that we selected, I am sure by end of this month, January, we will be finished with the 13,000. Now we will sit down and discuss the challenges that we went through. If we think everything is under control, and it is said that our evaluation shows that those who went through the training are fully equipped in terms of knowledge and skill, and so we can move on with it after addressing all the gaps that we encounter, then we are good to go. And so we're looking at between now and perhaps April, May, we should be taking off with a very comprehensive package for driver training in this country. That is where we are currently.
All right, please hang on for me as we continue with this discussion. Mr. Mo, you've heard what this is the National Road Safety Authority. You've heard what they have to say. Your meeting or your training is obviously different from the training that they organize, right?
I thank Mr. Adontin. We are also part of the current training that he spoke about. And they told us they are going to train 13,000 drivers from the beginning, then subsequently it shall be followed. But I don't have to say this here. Greater Accra will raise an issue which is yet to be addressed.
What's this issue?
What I'm saying is he's aware of what I'm saying. And
yeah, we need to understand because we're having a conversation, right?
Since they haven't reacted to that, I don't think it will be fair to mention it here.
Well, let me ask you, Mr. Adonte, maybe you can help us.
We are waiting for their meeting this year so that we will sit and solve that issue that we raised. Yeah.
I just want to know, Mr. Adontin, what's this issue?
I couldn't hear him.
He says you told them, you reached out to GPRTU and told them you wanted to train about 13,000 drivers. They raised a few issues and
which
have not been addressed, and that you are aware of these issues.
All right. You know, I told you that, GPRTU is the biggest transport service provider in this country. We do not want to do anything without them. We gave them a thumb up when we realized that they took their own initiative in trying to organize the training for their members last 3 years and last year, about 50,000 of them. That was a very big achievement as far as transport operators are concerned. And we are saying that whatever they did, we even took part of their training program to add on to ours. We are not fighting them. We are not creating any tension between us and them.
They said they've raised some issues that you have not addressed.
Yes, I think that we have met their leadership. It was all about the timing and the fact that if you are looking at commercial vehicle drivers, and then perhaps you are giving them a certain allocation, looking at numbers, that may not be adequate. For example, if you are giving them, say, out of the 13,000, they say GPRTU is taking 1,000 or 2,000. Perhaps they would have wished that they get a certain 5,000 out of the 13,000. But looking at the bigger number of commercial vehicle driver unions and operators and so on, if you are giving such a bigger number to GPRTU, it means that the smaller ones will now have to suffer with a few number of drivers and so on. So I think in terms of allocating numbers as to who comes into the 13,000 was an issue. But this is being addressed at the highest level, at the leadership level. But I think that we'll get there. We'll definitely cross.
I'd like for you to listen to Mr. Cecil Gabra and then take your reaction on that. But Mr. Moro, you wanted to tell Mr. Adontin something. What was that?
No, I wanted to thank him for recognizing us. And like as I said, that we have raised some issues which has not been addressed. I don't think it is fair for me to put it in the public domain.
And it's all about the numbers.
I thank him very much.
It's all about the numbers. We're looking at how we can, going forward, avoid these needless deaths by training drivers. But there are also calls for stricter punishment for those who engage in reckless driving. On PM Express last night, by the way, Evans Mensah hosted transport consultant Cecil Gabra, who had this to say about compliance specifically on speed limits.
And it is not everything that road safety or MTTD will get right, okay? So they are happening every now and then. It's now up to us to put in place structures to stop it. That is it. And I'm always, fighting to say that enforcement, right? It is an enforcement issue. Government is not investing in road safety in this country. Road safety can generate a lot of money for us. We are not serious. I mean, that is it. So if you ask me to break it down, what I would say is, fine, we have the legislation instruments, 2180 and so on. But then if you look at it, I mean, when I looked at this recent accident, I said, what are we doing about speed governance? It is there, 135, regulation 135 talks about it.
Speed governance?
Of course, if you look at the regulation, it says that those big buses and so on must have speed limiters, which means that when you accelerate up to a certain point, 75 kilometers per hour, 80 kilometers per hour for a bus, you can't get any speed again.
This is in the law?
Yes, it is. It is there.
That says that buses
buses precisely
must have speed limiters?
Precisely, it is there.
It's a must or is it?
It is. I mean, once it is in the airline, it is a legislative instrument, and this is 2012, if I'm right.
Oh, this is recent. Fairly recent.
2012
is fairly recent, actually.
Yes, and it is there, and we are not implementing it.
DVL is the authority responsible for vehicles that come onto our roads. They are the ones that have to pick them through the tests, the roadworthiness, or any.
So they have to ensure that you have a speed limiter before they give you a roadworthy certificate.
They have to ensure that these things are checked. They are working before they pass the vehicle. But I don't know about the protocols and as to how far or what goes into the implementation of that law.
Yes. And hopefully we'll get to the DVLA for the implementation of that particular law. But I want to come to you, Ms. Adonting. You know about the speed limiters?
Yes, I do. And
it's part of the law apparently, and we have not enforced it at all.
Yes, you know, as I said, just like the training program, there are certain laws in the road traffic regulations, very critical that these laws should have by now been applied or been implemented. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to. But so critical. One is the training part that we are talking about. The other is the use of speed limiters. It's also been in the law for a very long time now. What it means is that we all know in this country that overspeeding, what we call overspeeding or high speed, excessive speeding, is one of the critical contributing factors to our crashes and deaths and so on. Every fatal crash has some element of high speed in it. What it means is that we must do everything we can to limit our drivers in the kind of...
We know that, Ms. Adonting. Sorry to interrupt you, but what I'm trying to really find out here is what are we doing right now about this to help deal with the problem?
My sister, we're under this new dispensation of the National Road Safety Authority. It is one of our critical interventions that we're bringing on board.
Okay.
We are talking to DVLA, we are talking to the police, we are talking to all the operators, the drivers, and everybody that this year. So there is everything we are doing to implement that law. So that before any vehicle of the category that has been provided in the law is licensed, registered, or inspected and given roadworthiness by DVLA, we're going to make sure that it has catered with the speed governance, or what we call the speed limiter. Okay. And so I can assure Cecil and the group and all of you that it is something that this year we're going to pursue very vigorously and ensure that it is done.
Okay. Let me bring Mr. Moro back into the conversation. Mr. Moro, what do you think about this speed limiter? So essentially it will help the drivers not to overspeed even if they try to.
Definitely it will help everybody because overspeeding really kills. And there are road signs also on the road indicating your speed limit at certain places.
The people don't
should also try
those.
to apply and make sure we go by that. And I want to make a passionate appeal to our big man, Mr. Adonting. In Accra, the roads, drivers are not protected. All the roads has been taken over by hawkers. We should not wait till unexpected happens, then we say, here we come again. Go to Mokola, go to La Paz, go to 37. Hawkers are taking over everywhere. I want to make this passionate appeal to Mr. Adonting. Make sure at times they talk a lot about road safety, but how safe our roads. They forget to talk about that. So I want to make this passionate appeal to him.
Ms. Adonting, I'm coming back to you again with this. We've spoken about the speed limiters. You say that you're liaising with the DVLA to make sure that at least this year you start implementing that part. You also talked about the training, and in this training I want to find out if there are specific targets or you have target group within the drivers, the bigger group of the drivers that you're training. There are those who do long journey, there are those who do short distances, etc. Are there specific targets for you in this training regime?
Yes, we have, as a first step, identified certain groups. We call them high-risk groups. High-risk groups. The group is, these are drivers who operate long-distance journeys. Long distance, 40 kilometers and above. We're also looking at drivers of high-occupancy vehicles. Those we all see, the VIP, the VVIP, those long buses. We're also looking at drivers who operate for long hours in a day. These are three identified driver groups that we have identified, and we want to put them in that category. And because we are aware that these operators, high occupancy vehicles, are the ones when there is a crash, then you record more than 10, 15, 20, 30 deaths. Now, the other group that we're trying to bring on board are those who also operate the 207s and then yes, I think the 207s are the sprinters. You and I know the kind of behaviors these guys are putting on the ground. So in the first place, we want to deal with this particular group. And then as we move along, gradually we target the rest of, before we come into the fight, our target now, the commercial vehicle transport operators.
Right.
High risk group, long distances, high occupancy buses, and then those who drive for long hours in a day. So those are our targets, my dear.
Okay. Mr. Morrow, if you're a driver yourself, right? I don't know if you did long distance or short distance. What were you doing?
I'm an utility player. I started with a taxi, then a minibus. I was traveling long distance.
Okay.
Currently, my activities are the regional secretariat.
Right, right. So as a driver, when you're going on a long journey, on a long distance journey, and you want to overtake because you feel that the person in front of you is driving rather slow, what goes through your mind? Would you usually think about the number of people you have in the vehicle and think of the possibility of an accident? I mean, what goes in your mind, the mind of a driver, of a long journey driver, when he's overtaking?
Every driver must apply our first principle of see and be seen. First, you must know the strength of your vehicle, the brakes effectiveness. Secondly, you just can't overtake a vehicle when you are very close behind the vehicle. There should be a distance, and you must first watch and be sure if the road ahead is very clear before you can overtake. We don't overtake in the curve also, because if you decide to overtake, meaning you are taking the road of the coming vehicle. So you cannot do that. Yes, you cannot do that in the curve.
You engage your drivers. Do you think they have this understanding at the back of their minds when they are doing their jobs?
Madam, every normal thinking driver should apply these principles, because if you do not apply this principle of see and be seen, the possibility of killing yourself and killing others is there. So every normal or clear thinking driver must apply this simple principle.
Okay. Mr. Dante,
Yes, my dear.
whilst we wrap up this conversation, what I want to find out from you is that there are calls for assessment, reassessment of drivers who use private commercial vehicles, but there are also calls for stricter punishment for them. We know that the laws, Ghana's laws, were changed somewhere along the line, and that sort of reduced the sanctions that were to come to people who engage in reckless driving. What is the Road Safety Authority now doing as far as punishment regime for reckless driving is concerned? Okay,
before I go on to answer your question, let me quickly react to Moro's session. I agree with him. A driver of a caliber that drives high occupancy bus, the academic realm, would have said that he's a professor. Professor means that he's gone through the ranks from the basic taxi license B, C, D, and so on to where he is now. We do not expect such a driver to make mistakes when it comes to overtaking. No. And so I agree with Moro. It means that the basic principles of overtaking should be clear, and we shouldn't have problems with such drivers. In any case, the National Road Safety Authority, the authority that has been given to us currently, is for us now, one of the key functions is to regulate that industry. And I'm talking about the public transport industry. Regulation means that we are now going to sit with them, develop standards together, and then we ensure that they comply with the standards. One of the standards is for that we will certify them. They will have to go through a certain criteria, procedures, and then when you qualify as an operator, then we will license you. No one can just go get 3, 4, 5 bars to put together and say, I am an operator. It's not going to happen again.
Okay, and this is... Please go ahead.
We're going to go through a procedure to now accept them and certify them. Once we certify you, there will be another criteria to guide your appointment of your driver. The driver must be competent. So you should have gone through a certain training before we will accept them to be part of your operation. We're going to give them tax sanction regime in a manner that if any driver should misbehave, the sanctions will not even go to the driver. It will go to the institution. It means that a whole institution can be grounded, like the civil aviation or the aviation industry, where if you don't regulate your own drivers or regulate your own operations within the standards that we are going to set up, then it means that you are not ready to work. You are not ready to operate. If any of your members should miss the standard and should misbehave, it will go against the entire operation, or the operator, or the union, or the organization.
Okay.
And I think that is what is going to be applied, just like the aviation industry. And I'm sure we're going to get there soon.
Where soon is when? When are we starting?
Yes, in fact, that is why we were set up as an authority in last year, August. And coming down to the end of the year 2019, we have already taken off as an authority. Currently, we've started addressing some of the issues systematically and gradually. I can assure you that we are preparing to meet all the transport operators, their leadership, and to discuss these systems of permitting, licensing, and sanctioning. And again, we are soon meeting all the assemblies to discuss street lighting, because we are aware that street lighting is a component of what we pay as electricity bill. The monies, where do they go? How do they apply? Why are some of the street lights not functioning? So we have very critical interventions that will be coming up. And it is our expectation that all the stakeholders will come with us, along with us, and so that we can do what is required. And this kind of panic that we are seeing on our roads in Ghana.
Okay. I hope that it looks like there's a lot going on. You've got a lot on your plate, and I really hope that you do this sincerely to save lives. And I mean, sometimes we do some of these things. Something happened, we come in, we put in a knee-jerk reaction quickly for the cameras, quickly for the media. But I really hope that these interventions will save the lives that we're losing on our roads. But we'll wrap up this conversation. I just have some messages here from our viewers. This one said, I had to believe the second narrative, which is something I'd like for you to give us your final words on. There have been different narratives so far as far as what happened when the accident is concerned. The driver, one of the drivers is saying yesterday that there was another truck that came to run over them. I don't know what you've heard about that, but let me read this message so that you tell us what the authority knows about those narratives. This one says, I had to believe the second narrative, just watching the footage of the accident scene, and cannot fathom how an articulated truck could run over the crashed bus successfully without equally falling. So the other narrative we're hearing from the driver is that as they were trying to save the people in the bus, there was another truck that ran over them, adding up to the number of casualties. What is the authority doing about these narratives? Because you said you are investigating it.
Yes, I must say that when the crash occurred, we went there. In fact, I personally went there. We have assessed the situation together with the police. We heard different opinions. There were people, we got eyewitness. There were people who supported getting people, saving some of them, bringing people out, and so on. We went to the hospitals. We've interacted with the victims, those who are alive. And I can assure that we have so many opinions, so many issues to look at. Some are very conflicting. And that is the more reason why the National Road Safety Authority, as part of our policy, we have set up an independent for multidisciplinary experts who are going to give us a clear picture of the crash and the consequences and all that. And then based on that, we can intervene. But I'm saying that for now, all these issues are speculation. I know that there was, what I can establish is that there was a head-on, 2 buses, 35 people dead, more others injured. It happened at Commander, near Commander Dompoase, actually they're about in between Peoples and Takrady. The good thing is that one of the drivers, especially the one who was suspected to be taken wrongly, is alive. We are making sure that the doctors will take very good care of him together with the others. And then when he comes up out strong, we can interrogate him. And I'm sure all these things can help us in our investigation. Okay. And this will be a public document. We'll put them out, and then all of us will have our opinions and shares, and then we can see the way forward.
Right.
So for now, that is what I would say, my dear.
Very, very well. This message says, my contribution is to stop all long-distance buses from traveling after 9 o'clock, and again, revoke the licenses of any driver involved in an accident.
It's an opinion. It's an opinion.
If it is well, let me finish reading it to you. He says, if it is a private transport company, they should revoke their license until the time when they will have proper training for their drivers, because it's becoming heartbreaking. Here's an opinion, you say. Well, I like to say a very big thanks to you, Mr. Adonte, for your time. It's been great interacting with you. He's a director of planning. Programs and planning at the National Road Safety Authority, David Osafo Adonte. Mr. Adonte, thank you once again. Mr. Moro, I'd like to finish with you. We'll find our words as we wrap up.
I'm personally worried about our roads, most of our roads, which are not safe at all. Like I said, if you go to Mokola, you see hawkers trading in the middle of the street. You go to La Paz, and I wonder, nobody says anything about it. We are waiting for unexpected to happen. I'm pleading with the authorities to make sure the right things are being done. This is all that I'll say.
Some more messages here. This one says, I do have some other stories related to this. I'll tell you about it. It says, Gifty, it's a fact that most VIP drivers are trotro drivers who have been recruited for these long distance buses. They exhibit the same characteristics as trotro drivers, competing on the highways with each other in saloon cars. I am all for putting speed limits on these buses. Is it true? Most of them are trotro drivers, so they just
migrated. And you say there is something we should know. We have drivers who are illiterate, who drives perfectly. You have drivers who are illiterate, who
you mean drivers who have not gone through formal education?
Drive about 17 gear wheel, very long vehicles. You see, it's just unfortunate. Occasionally, it's been a long time we heard about this such an accident. We thought this has been a thing of the past. It's just unfortunate. But like I said earlier, about 80% of the accidents are human error. We are still pleading, praying, and encouraging our people to make sure they do right things. They have to put value in our profession.
Well, the road accidents, he says, will not reduce until they expand all roads. Expand our roads into many lanes like Saudi Arabia. You can see a road and it's 4 lanes so that there will be more space for the cars. More of your messages and then we'll move on from there. He says the road, all right, I just read this one. May their souls rest in peace. This is painful from Jacob in Kumasi. I suggest any driver that overspeeds at the kilometer per hour should be reported to the police at checkpoint. Amuzu Oscar sent that from North Agogo. Amuzu, people report. Sometimes they feel like nothing will be done about it. The good Lord commit the 2 children into his care. You said you don't add your message. Babamu from Tamale says, indeed, it saddens my heart anytime I hear accidents like this in the country. However, condolences to the family and people who lost their lives. But I think Road Safety Management Authority and MTTU must put in mechanisms to reduce this accident. A lot of you are sending your messages. I have hundreds of it. I can't read all of them. Hopefully, we'll be able to do this thing and work it out. Mr. Moro, thank you so much for coming. In the meantime, the NDC opposition has been holding their meeting here in Accra. They've been observing a minute's silence for those who perished in the accident.
I kindly indulge you to be up on your feet for a minute's silence. Over the year, we've lost a number of our comrades. And only 3 days ago, there was a fatal accident in the central region which took the life of more than 34 people. Let us pray and ask the good Lord to grant them a resting place. May their soul and the souls of all other departed faithfuls rest in perfect peace. Amen.
May their souls continue to rest in peace. And for the survivors, we wish them speedy recovery. For the children, my heart goes out to them. We really wish them God's protection and the state's protection as well.